Picture this. It's 11:47 p.m. A man in his late 40s sits alone in a quiet apartment. The TV is on, but muted. His dinner plate is still on the table. He scrolls through his phone for a while, sees wedding photos, family vacations, engagement announcements, then locks the screen and stares at the ceiling. Tomorrow, he'll wake up, go to work, joke around with coworkers, maybe even seem confident. But nobody really notices the silence waiting for him when he gets home. And the strange part is, some men don't end up single because they hate relationships. They end up single because somewhere along the way, they quietly disappeared from the dating world without even realizing it. Psychology has a term for this kind of slow withdrawal: learned emotional avoidance. Not dramatic heartbreak, not "I'll never love again," just years of small disappointments, failed attempts, rejection, insecurity, exhaustion, until eventually trying no longer feels worth the emotional risk. A lot of older single men weren't always isolated. Some used to be hopeful. In their 20s, they thought life would naturally fall into place. They assumed love would happen eventually. But then careers happened, financial pressure happened, family responsibilities happened, and slowly relationships became something they kept postponing. I'll date when I'm more successful. I'll date when life calms down. I'll date after I fix myself. But years pass faster than people expect. One of the biggest psychological reasons some older men stay single is something called avoidance reinforcement. The more you avoid uncomfortable situations, the safer avoidance feels. If dating leads to rejection, awkwardness, or feeling unwanted, the brain starts rewarding isolation because isolation protects you from pain. That's why some men stop approaching people entirely, not because they don't want connection, but because solitude becomes emotionally predictable, and predictability feels safer than vulnerability. You can actually see this in real life. The man who says, relationships are too much drama. The guy who jokes that he's married to his work. The older friend who insists he's happier alone, but spends hours doom scrolling late at night. Sometimes those statements are true, but sometimes they're defenses, because admitting loneliness feels more painful than pretending independence. There's also another uncomfortable reality people rarely talk about. The older someone gets, the harder dating can psychologically feel. Not necessarily because they become less attractive, but because the emotional stakes feel higher. A 22-year-old can recover from rejection in a week. A 48-year-old man who hasn't dated in years may feel like rejection confirms every insecurity he's been suppressing for decades. So instead of risking embarrassment, many men retreat into routines: work, gym, gaming, sports, YouTube, sleep, repeat. And routines are dangerous because they can make emotional isolation feel normal. What's scary is that humans can adapt to almost anything, including loneliness. Research in psychology shows prolonged isolation can slowly reduce a person's motivation to seek connection altogether. The brain starts conserving emotional energy. That's why some older single men stop trying completely, not because they've transcended relationships, but because emotional numbness can disguise itself as peace. And society doesn't really help either. Men are often taught to suppress emotional needs, to stay stoic, to avoid looking weak or needy. So instead of saying, "I feel lonely," many men say things like, "I'm just focused on myself right now," even when they secretly wish someone would ask how they're really doing. But here's the important part. Being single is not the problem. There are genuinely happy single people living meaningful lives. The real issue is emotional disconnection. You can be single and fulfilled, or surrounded by people and still deeply alone. The danger begins when someone slowly stops believing connection is possible for them anymore. Because once a person fully accepts isolation as their identity, they stop reaching out entirely. And maybe that's why this topic hits so hard for so many people. Because deep down, almost everyone fears becoming emotionally invisible. So if you're watching this and you relate to any of this, maybe ask yourself one honest question. Have you truly found peace in solitude, or have you simply gotten used to loneliness? And if this video spoke to you, comment your thoughts below. I read every comment. And subscribe for more videos exploring the psychology of people, relationships, loneliness, and the hidden struggles most people never talk about.